Hey gang, it's Platt here. Today we're continuing our wine series. We're leaving Europe and we're headed to South Africa. In most of our examples in Europe, we discussed that there was no set origin date to the creation of their wine industry. Generally, there was a long time ago, there were some wine grapes, and then the Romans and Greeks showed up, showed them how to make wine and wine culture, and we just moved on. Well, South Africa is a little unique because there is a definite start date to their wine industry. In 1659, a gentleman named John van Riebeek, was sent by the Dutch merchants to establish Cape Town. He's the founder of Cape Town in South Africa. And the Dutch merchants were wanting to set up a trading outpost, and he was the leader of that outpost. Well, of course, like a lot of people, you want the comfort of home, and one of the things is wine. Well, he began growing grapes and producing wine in 1659. After he left, the gentleman that replaced him in running the Cape Town colony, in 1685, ended up creating Constantia Estates. It became the first major vineyard in South Africa and began to be known for quality wines. Now, after he passed, the vineyard fell into some disrepair, but there are still quality wines being made in that region still to this day, and the Constantia Estate is a very important part of South African wine culture. South Africans, surprisingly enough, I was shocked to find out, actually fell victim to the phylloxera epidemic just like their brethren in Europe. In 1886, they were wiped out by phylloxera, and they decided to replant. But when they did, they made the decision to go higher yielding grapes but lower quality grapes. They decided we've got to make up for lost time, and so we need high yield. We're not so much worried about quality. But what ended up happening was because the lower quality of wine became less desirable, because of the higher yields, they were stuck with more of it. So much so that they had what they referred to as wine lakes, so they were just dumping wines into lakes. They had so much. Well, this led to the creation of something called KWV. It was the South African Wine Co-op. What they decided to do is take excess wine, they turned it into brandy, they started creating price controls, kind of a first step regulation that was not government sanctioned at the time, and for many years still played an important part in South African wine regulation and the wine industry. Later on in 1973, something called the WO, or Wine of Origin program, was started. It was modeled after the AOC in France. Unlike in France, where besides just labeling was regulated, there was a lot of things like certain viticultural techniques, planting seasons, the way you trimmed the canopies, this, that, and the other. In South Africa, they were really just worried about the labeling. They have 4 levels of geographic designation. The largest is geographic unit, then region, then district, and the smallest is ward. And you have multiple wards inside a district, multiple districts inside the region, so on and so on. Later on, after apartheid ended, for a long time South African wines weren't available because of embargoes, because of apartheid. When apartheid finally fell away, it was the opportunity for some South African winemakers to finally start exporting the product. Well, what was needed was additional investment, and the KWV came back, became private, and helped start bringing in money to the South African vineyards to finally grow, start creating marketing internationally, and help kind of grow South Africa's wine industry to become a major export player. Today in South Africa, there's roughly 82 different wine grapes, or as they refer to them, cultivars. The number one white grape is Sauvignon Blanc, or as they refer to it down there, Steen. The number one red grape is Cabernet Sauvignon. For the most part, wine production is pretty close to 50-50, 50% red, 50% white. For a long time, South Africa was a predominantly white wine country, but now it's got pretty close to even now in production. South Africa is also home to a unique grape blend called Pinotage. Sometimes it doesn't have the best reputation. It's a blend of Pinot Noir grape and Cinsault grape. Some people think it's a little too vegetal. It's all kind of depending. Some people like it, some people don't, but it is a unique South African product, and you might want to keep an eye for it if you're feeling a little adventurous. Like I said earlier, the wine of origin program in South Africa, like I said, really doesn't regulate too much as far as actual wine making techniques, this, that, and the other. But one thing they do regulate is no chaptalization or the addition of sugar. South Africa has a fairly Mediterranean climate, which means they're getting plenty of sun on those grapes, so they're hitting the right sugar levels. They don't need additional sugar. What they do allow is the addition of a like acid blend. If you make wine at home, you know sometimes you'll add acid blend in to provide acidity to balance with the sugar. They allow that in South Africa, but like I said, no additional sugars. Also in South Africa, they use a term called single vineyard. If you see that on a bottle, that means that it came from a single vineyard that is 6 hectares, roughly I think 15 US acres or less. So it comes from a small little plot. They also use the term estate wines. That means it comes from that small plot or the neighboring plots around it. As long as those neighboring plots are similar grapes and a part of the wine family, I guess, or the larger vineyard or larger company that owns the vineyard. South Africa, besides regular table wines, also produces fortified wines, sherry style wine, a port style wine. Actually down there they refer to them as Cape ports. They have ruby Cape ports, tawny Cape ports, vintage Cape ports, similar to the line of ports you get in Portugal, and really gather good quality products. The particular wine we're going to try today is the Spier 1692. It's a Sauvignon Blanc. Comes at 13% alcohol by volume, and this is a 2016 vintage. Spier was what they refer to as a wine farm, or a vineyard as we refer to them, established in 1692, so over 320 years of winemaking experience, so you like to think they got it down by now. Something they're a part of, and something they do in South Africa that's kind of unique, is besides labeling how they label wine similar to an AOC method, they also have a labeling for sustainability. This label right here is a South African wine sustainability label. It says that they're practicing sustainable agricultural practices. I've looked on the website, they're also designated as organic. South Africa has this program that you don't see in France or other places. So they do a labeling if a farm is practicing certain agricultural practices that are good for Mother Nature. So we get to drink wine and be good for Mother Nature. You can't beat that. Speaking of drinking wine, let's give this one a try. Alright. A nice golden kind of strawish color. That is definitely Sauvignon Blanc. Well, just a hint of acid on the side. Sweetness, kind of a bite to it. A little bit of that grassy but appley kind of thing you get with some Sauvignon Blancs. Nice wine, fairly, very drinkable, light, kind of on the palate. Overall, nice little glass of wine. Oh yeah. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, you just leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.